At the Long Beach Expo on June 4, 2010, we captured a rare numismatic convergence that's sure to delight all fans of Pioneer Gold coins. Donald Kagin and David McCarthy of Kagin's and PCGS founder David Hall got together for a fascinating discussion of Pioneer Gold with the magnificent Fall River collection as the backdrop. No one is more qualified to present this topic than these three leading numismatic scholars. In fact, Kagin's has handled more Pioneer Gold coins and published more research on the subject than any other firm. And Don Kagin is the author of Private Gold Coins and Patterns of the United States, the definitive reference book. PCGS was fortunate to play a key role in the story too. At the request of Kagin's client, all 30 of the Fall River collection of Pioneer Gold coins were graded and put into the new PCGS Secure Plus holders. As Don Kagin remarks, the coins look especially good when they're all on display together and all in the same holders. Now please join us as Don, David, and David reconstruct the story of Pioneer Gold using the Fall River collection as examples of the historic coinage.
I'm David Hall. I'm speaking to you from the floor of the Long Beach Coin Show here in the first week of June 2010. I have with me Don Kagin and David McCarthy, and it's been PCGS's privilege to grade an incredible collection of Pioneer, or some people call it territorial, but Pioneer Gold coins, about 30 coins. The Pioneer Gold is one of the rarest areas in all of United States numismatics. Great history in the collecting hobby. These rarities were the kind of rarities that people like J.P. Morgan collected 100 years ago. Don Kagin happens to be, in my opinion, the authority in the world on Pioneer Gold. He's written the definitive text and handled many of the rarest of all of the Pioneer pieces, a lot of them multiple times. So this incredible collection, Don, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, they actually belong to one of our clients, and we get vicarious pleasure out of putting together collections for our clients. It's been a thrill. And like you said, we've handled some of these coins 2 or 3 times in the past. And they tell a story. They tell the story of the opening of the West, of the gold rushes, of the 3 distinct gold rushes that happened in our nation, that where it necessitated individual ingenuity to melt down the gold dust and create a medium of exchange at a time that there wasn't enough to satisfy the needs of a growing and undeveloped country. So individuals would come up with the idea, they melt down the gold dust, they put their stamp, their imprimatur, their name on it, and if they were well known, either they were jewelers or gun manufacturers, whatever, they put their name on it, and people accepted them for money, and they circulated for money at the time. And these coins represent some of the finest examples of it, basically what we call a typeset of Pioneer Gold coins from the 3 distinct gold rushes that issued those.
Most of the Pioneer coins, or a lot of them, come from California, but we also have coins from Oregon. I hope that Don will tell us about the Mormon gold coins. We had an East Coast gold rush, North Carolina, Georgia. These coins, there's so many great pieces in this collection, and the rarity is just so outstanding. My eye is immediately drawn to the 1849 Mormon $10 gold piece, one of the few I've ever seen in my 40-year career. I think, Don, there's only 10 known or something like that.
They originally made like 46 of them before the Crucible broke back in 1848, and so there weren't that many to begin with. We've traced about 10 of them, and a few are in museums.
5 of them.
5 of them. And this one is one of the nicer ones, and really there hasn't been one on the market for over a decade. So that's probably why you haven't seen too many.
And we have a Mormon 20, and could you explain a little bit how, because the Mormon gold coins, the gold coins struck in Salt Lake City, were a little different in terms of the gold rush, right? It wasn't really gold from Salt Lake City, was it?
No, it's gold from California. Most people don't realize that in 1848, when gold was discovered in California, it was San Francisco, or originally called Yerba Buena, it was a Mormon town. Over 50% of the people in late 1846 were from the Mormon battalion that fought in the war against Mexico and then came to California, thinking that the promised land for the Mormons was going to be California. So a whole contingent of them came to California in 1846. They started working on Sutter's mill, and that's where gold was discovered, and many of them were the first people to mine the gold dust, while their colleagues were under Brigham Young, Joseph Smith, and then later Brigham Young, were coming across the country and ended up, as we now know, in Salt Lake City. But most people thought that they were going to be coming to California. Well, after they mined the gold dust, many of the brethren, as they were called, went back to Salt Lake City. Now, under the Mormon religion, you give 10% of your earnings in tithes to the church. So they gave all this new gold dust to Brigham Young, who came up with the idea of melting down the gold dust from the California gold and creating dyes and striking the coins for the Deseret Mint. That's the name of their mint, which meant honeybee, which was meant industry for them. So the first gold coins privately issued, not only from the California gold rush, and the first gold coin struck west of the Mississippi River in our country, was this coin right here, the $10 Mormon gold piece.
Now, we also have gold coins from Oregon, also 1849, but they only made two, a 5 and a 10, and we have a beaver on them, the Oregon beaver, and they're very rare coins, and there's two of them here. Can you tell us a little about Oregon and also about these two coins in general, because they're such fabulous condition, and both the 5 and 10 are very rare?
I'll be happy to do that. The first immigrants to California to mine the gold dust were from Oregon. And they brought it back to Oregon, the gold dust, and again they needed a medium of exchange, so they melted it down and made these $5 and $10 gold pieces. Originally it was going to be by the government, which was a provisional government, but later it became a territory just before they were able to make the coin. So it became, many of the people involved in the politics in the government left and created the Oregon Exchange Company, and they issued these coins under the Oregon Exchange Company instead of the actual territory of Oregon, although they did put T-O and O-T on to designate as the territory of Oregon. The 10 in particular came from the Clifford Kagin that was purchased by my father and myself back in the 70s, and then it's been previously sold and resold and got it to this collection, and it's considered the finest known. I'd like to introduce David McCarthy, who's my associate at Kagan's and has been for over 5 years.
And if I could say so, world-class coin researcher.
Absolutely.
Who has helped PCGS on many issues.
Thanks very much.
And David could say a lot about the quality, because he's handled a number of these pieces while he's been with me and even before.
I think over the past 7 or so years, we've probably handled more Oregon pieces than anyone by a factor of 10. And of all of the pieces that we've handled over the years, this 5 is probably one of the 3 finest that we've ever seen. The other 2, one of which is an MS-61 and the other is an AU-58. This particular example probably has the strongest luster of any of the coins that we've seen, and really has a fabulous strike for the issue. The 10 is the finest in private hands as far as we're aware. It has just absolutely phenomenal surfaces. It has the luster of a fully uncirculated coin. It's just a little bit flatly struck, and where it hasn't been struck, there's no luster, and hence the grade of AU-58 plus, which is an example of the new PCGS service, which, you know, maybe you can explain a little bit about the plus grade on a coin like that.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
And we've been talking a little bit about California, and we went to Utah and Oregon, but it was still California gold. And we'll get back to California since we both live there. We all live there.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the 2 other major gold discoveries. we have from the Colorado gold rush, we have two very famous coins. The Clark Gruber and Company Pikes Peak gold coins. There's a 10 and the very, very rare 20. So Don, can you fill us in a little bit about what happened in Colorado around 1860?
Well, we had the old Pikes Peak or Bust gold rush in 1860, and one of the enterprises there was buying up this gold dust and shipping it all the way to Philadelphia to be struck into gold coins. And then they realized they could do better just purchasing the coining equipment in New York or Philadelphia, bringing it out to Denver, and striking their own coins. Unfortunately, they had some dice maker make they wanted a picture of the iconic Pikes Peak on the coins to represent it was from Denver, but the die maker is from Philadelphia, so he'd never seen Pikes Peak. So originally he made some patterns that looked like just triangles. That was rejected. Then they made a mountain, but it doesn't look anything like Pikes Peak. So although they were beautiful to us today, they were rejected a year later in 1861. They went to a new die of what looks like regular federal U.S. coinage. But these, thank you very much, are wonderful, beautiful, iconic design of Pikes Peak, quote unquote. And these are two of the finest examples. The 20 is probably less than 2 dozen in existence, and this is considered the finest, and it's from the famous Garrett collection. And a lot of people, if they want an example of a Colorado coin, this is what they want. They want the $10 because there's probably maybe 75 to 100 pieces in existence. This may be one of the finest. It certainly is one of the finest. And but it's not all that expensive to acquire this if you're looking for a nice piece of Pioneer gold.
Interestingly, the first gold rush really wasn't in California or Colorado. It was on the East Coast. So you want to talk a little about the Beckler coin?
Well, not just Beckler, but Templeton Reed was the first private gold coiner in 1830. Most people don't realize that our nation's first gold rush was in southern Appalachia, in North Carolina and Georgia, because it was so small compared to the California gold rush. But that's where it started, and in 1830, a man by the name of Templeton Reed, who was a cotton gin manufacturer, a jeweler, a watchmaker, kind of a jack of all trades. He came up with the idea, the first one to melt down the gold dust for the first gold rush in America and make these Templeton Reed $2.50 gold pieces. Pretty simple design, but it did the trick. There aren't that many of them, but he made $2.50, $5 and $10 gold pieces. There's only a few known of the 5s and 10 and several of the 2.5s, but they're all six-figure coins. A man by the name of Christopher Beckler Sr., his son August and his nephew Chris Jr. Started issuing coins and made sure that they were very, very circumspect about how much gold was in there. So they had a lot of credibility. They made $1, $2.50, and $5 gold pieces, and they were so good about the amount of gold they put in that some of them even traded during the Civil War.